Today we're going to talk about resolving family disputes. Why do disputes happen and how to resolve them?
This will be a two-part series. Part one will be why inheritance disputes happen and how to prevent them.
Part two will be resolving beneficiary disputes, what every beneficiary needs to know.
So you'll want to watch the part two, when it comes out. Have you ever experienced siblings that when they were children and even into their adulthood, while their parents were still with us, had a great relationship? And then when there's an inheritance, they can barely speak to each other because they have a disagreement.
It happens more often than you'd think. Inheritance issues can really bring up deep-seated problems between siblings.
Yeah, deep emotions, grievances, and even outright conflicts can happen.
In this video, we'll discuss why inheritance disputes happen and what you can do about it. We'll talk about how family emotions and family history can be a cause of strife between siblings, and some key strategies to prevent conflicts if you are ahead of the game and you are right at the beginning of the process and the disputes have not gotten too
intense.
And ways to prevent conflicts if the disputes have not gotten too intense. Hi, I'm Ashley Rivera.
And I'm Kim Ward. We are partners here at Horizon Real Estate's Probate and Trust Help in beautiful San Diego.
And we specialize in helping executors, administrators, and trustees through the probate process with preparation, marketing, and sale of homes here in San Diego.
Let's talk about the really hard thing, which is the emotional impact when there's disputes getting an inheritance.
Inheriting a home, money, or items from your loved ones isn't just about the financial aspects. It can also be about memories. It can be about connection to items or the property. You'll find that deep emotions will come to the surface for many of your relatives whenever you're dealing with inheritance.
And even small disagreements, they can turn into big disputes when there's grieving, when there's assets involved, when grandma's yellow plate that she used every Thanksgiving, wanted by several of the family members, the beneficiaries.
Even small disagreements can escalate into larger problems, and so it's always important to make sure that you're communicating well with all of the beneficiaries about assets of the estate.
Yeah, and especially if you're watching this and you're the personal representative, we believe it's really important to keep all the beneficiaries up to date of what's happening, because I have a belief that a 5-minute email going out to people could keep a 20-minute argument from happening. When people know what's happening and what's going to happen next, they tend to remain calm.
Some common emotional triggers might be playing favoritism if your relative who is deceased has played favoritism to someone, or if you as the executor or administrator are favoring one beneficiary over another, that can cause problems. Betrayal, feeling like somebody is getting more than someone else, can really be hurtful and cause more disputes. And also just the general grief that your loved ones are feeling over the loss.
And sometimes the children have not been best of friends through their childhood and adulthood, and so old grievances can rise. And I think that's why it's really important as the personal representative to have really good communication with everybody. And the best way to do that, even if you're talking with one beneficiary more than another, which is understandable because we do have people that we feel more comfortable with and are closer with, I think it's really important to put together an email to send to everybody so everybody's on the same page.
So let's talk about a particular scenario that we had with a recent client. There were 3 siblings and they were all inheriting their mother and father's home. One sibling wanted to live in the home, one sibling wanted to sell the home, and the last sibling wanted to rent the property out as a source of income.
So of course this turned into a conflict amongst them because they felt somebody was being unfair, and everybody wanted their own way. perfectly understandable. They were in conflict until they spoke with us, and we explained to them how Proposition 19 changed the scenario of the super low taxes that their parents had. I think it was about $1,200 a year, and how because of Proposition 19, the taxes were going to be approximately $1,000 a month.
So, I mean, that's a tenfold increase for property taxes, which is a key factor in the decision between these siblings as to whether they would buy, sell, or rent.
As it turned out, they chose to sell the property because the sibling that wanted to keep the property didn't want to live in it. She just wanted to keep it. And the sibling that wanted to rent it, once they realized the property tax increase, saw that it just wasn't going to be the income stream that they were thinking about. And they all then became friends again and understood how each person had a different thought process, but they figured it out once they had the facts.
So what did they decide in the end? Well, they decided to sell the property. And so what we helped them to do was manage all the personal property, prepare the property for sale, and get it on the market. And they did make a very
Substantial.
profit for their inheritance
on the property that they got to split evenly, and they were happy.
Yeah, so oftentimes actually, there are different financial means for siblings. Some siblings may have a job that provides them with a significant amount of income. Someone may not. And in that particular instance, the financial benefits of selling a property is very different for those two siblings.
And we recently helped with a home in Encinitas where there were 3 brothers. One that lived in Ohio and was relatively successful, one that was unsheltered, and the other had been living with his mother in the home that needed to be sold for quite some time. So that's the kind of scenario where there's 3 siblings with different needs, and the property was sold and each brother got their fair share, and hopefully, they're using it wisely for what their needs are.
Another thing is old wounds resurfacing. So for example, going back to the favoritism thing, let's say that a particular sibling happened to be the favorite of mom, and when mom passed, that particular sibling is in a place where they're running the estate. Other siblings may find that they have some challenges with that. They have feelings, and they are not happy about the fact that the favorite child is the one who is responsible for managing the estate.
And I think when you say favorite, a lot of times what we see is it's the person, the child, that the decedent deemed as more capable of handling all that needs done. If you're a personal representative, you're going to experience that, all the things that need done to manage someone's life, their estate.
So along with that, another thing that causes a lot of disputes is lack of transparency from the personal representative. When there are multiple beneficiaries and the personal representative is not communicating well with everyone, that can cause disputes. Which is why, going back to the emails, we always recommend that an email is drafted and sent to everyone so that everyone is on the same page as to what steps are being taken to prepare the property or the estate in general for sale or through the probate process.
Yeah, and that can be as simple as, like I said, a 5 or 10 minute email just detailing what happened this week. Maybe even plan to do it on a regular basis so the beneficiaries all understand Monday evening they're going to get an update email. Like we do with our clients. We do a Tuesday update, either email, phone call, like that, and it keeps everybody happy.
So with that, 3 key strategies would be to ensure that you're communicating often and early. Set clear expectations for the beneficiaries. If you need them to participate in anything related to the estate, be very clear about what you need their assistance with, and also be clear about what your role is and what you can and cannot do.
And the perfect scenario is, as in my situation with my husband, we have a trust, and our beneficiary is very aware of what the trust is all about and our assets and that kind of thing. So, if you're watching this and you're wondering if having a trust is a good idea, it's a good idea.
We always recommend it to anybody who is in a situation where they have a home and they have beneficiaries that need to know what you want done with your home.
And what appeals to me is that I get to control how my assets are going to be distributed after I'm no longer here.
And the third key strategy would be to use a neutral party to help with anything related to the estate.
Yeah, especially if there's difficulties amongst the beneficiaries. Having an attorney write a letter of explanation could be helpful. But again, going back to what you said, communicating early and weekly will help a lot to keep the disputes.
Before we get to the final part of this, we do want to say don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and keep watching. We have lots of informative videos for representatives like yourself.
And again, this is part 1 of 2, so there will be a second part that you'll want to watch to get even more information about this very important topic.
I think the key takeaway from this is that inheritance disputes don't have to happen if you are proactive and make good choices early on. Being able to communicate with beneficiaries regularly, making sure that you have professionals to assist through the process, these are things that can really help you to keep everyone happy and prevent these disputes from taking place.
And in part 2, we will cover what you might want to do, what you could do if disputes are happening. This will include legal options to resolve disputes, key responsibilities for personal representatives, and what every beneficiary should know about taxes and inheritance.
So again, if you would like to see part 2, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. Follow us, and when part 2 pops up, you'll get notified.
And thank you for watching. We hope you found this of value, and stay tuned for part 2.